Hey there, Joseph Kern here, instructional designer at Emporia State University. We're going to be looking at iPhoto in this video on the iPad. So we're going to start off by looking at what you might want to do in settings, especially if you have multiple devices. If we scroll down to iCloud, with multiple devices, you probably want to set it under Photos so that you are sharing yours to a photo stream, and that way you're able to share these on any device. Now let's actually look at iPhoto. When you open it up, it's going to either drop you on the photo screen, or at the bottom we can tap albums or projects. It's probably whichever one you were on when you left. But let's look at photos. It's just a list of them in chronological order. Just like in all the iPad apps, you have a question mark there that shows you most of everything you want to know about each of the screens, so use that if you get stuck anytime. With the search feature at the bottom, it's not actually a typing search like you would expect, but you can find which ones you've flagged, which ones you've favorited. I'm not sure what the difference is between those, which ones you've edited. And also if you've made any projects, these are the pictures that have been used in your projects. Looking at all of them, again, there's a little ellipsis down here with some other options. Square thumbnails just does what it says. If you want to know whether it's a portrait or a landscape, I would keep that unchecked, and so you can actually see the whole picture for that. And the other options there are just some personal preferences. If we go over to albums, it kind of makes that search feature a little bit unnecessary, because across the top it has which ones you've edited, flagged, favorited, the ones you've looked at recently, and your entire camera roll. In addition, you have the iCloud, so these are the ones that are on your photo stream. So everything from my camera roll is also on the iCloud, but in addition, I've got whatever I have stored on my MacBook or my PC that's shared on the cloud, and also I have another iPad, and its things are shared on the cloud. So I've got multiple streams in there that I can choose from. Below that, I have things that I've tagged, and so I've tagged one thing as being a screenshot from Keynote. If I tag something else as a new item, it will go here as basically a new, you could call it kind of like an album, but a new set of things there. And then I have albums. I didn't actually make this album. I have another app that I've played around with that makes images fly out at you, and it created the album on its own. So you have some apps that when they ask access to your camera roll, this might be what they do when they set up their own album. And the third item here is projects. We'll look at that a little bit later. We're going to look at the pictures first. So let's just check out something from our camera roll. We'll pick out that guy. So up here you have the options to either get rid of that sidebar or not. Again, you have the question mark that'll tell you a whole lot of what you would need to know. So maybe just take some time and explore that. The undo is important when you are editing things. We'll look at that. You've got multiple ways to share or to use this in a project. The info, depending on how you took the picture, may have different stuff there. So this is one I just did a screenshot of. There's not a lot of information there. But if I look at one that I actually took a picture of, it automatically geolocates it. So that's where I am, or where I was when I took it. Plus has all the other fancy information about the type of camera used and all that. Along the bottom you have the editing features. There is cropping, which you can pinch around and zoom and move things. So after cropping this, I also went in, I played with the exposure a little bit by sliding these guys around. Change the color by saturating it, so maybe your camera doesn't capture color very well, so let's just pump everything up. Now, I could undo all this with the undo button way up at the top, but if you've changed a whole lot of things, you've screwed up a whole lot, so you can tap that for about a minute to get everything gone. Or you can go into each of these settings, and tapping the little ellipsis at the bottom there, you can tell it reset color to what it was originally, which that's very subdued. So let's go back a little bit. I can go into exposure, tell it to reset the exposure. Same thing with crop. So set it back to what it was. There are several brushes that you should spend some time playing around with. There's a repair, which, like I've seen things online, is really good for get a picture of something with a lot of wrinkles, or let me just go with Godzilla there. We're just going to smooth him out a little bit, which, no, it doesn't work very well for him. But yeah, find a picture of just somebody old. Just Google old person and put it in there and see what you can do. Oh, and I can go out of a picture, then come back into it. You can go back in and you can erase everything you did. So it doesn't save it permanently, and now the next time you go in, it's starting from this version. It remembers what it used to look like, so you can always go back in and revert it, as far as I know, unless I'm wrong. Another brush we can look at is the saturate or desaturate. And one of the options here is to show strokes, and that may be helpful, especially in one like this, because it barely changes anything. So if you really want to be able to see what you've subtly changed, then you might want that. You can also use your fingers to pinch and zoom as you're doing this too, if you need a better look at something. And because you're coloring with one finger, trying to move the image with one finger doesn't work. So if you zoom in, you have to use two fingers to move the picture around. Alright, so about a week later, when you get that done, you can tap off of it onto something else, and then we can see what our results were. So there's no save option when you're done. So I made that guy pop out because I desaturated everything else. I'm sure there are other ways to do this. If you have Photoshop, it's probably way easier, but there's an option. Alright, tapping on effects. There are a ton of these. I'm not going to go into detail on those because you can check things out yourself. I will show this though. I picked an effect type, and now at the bottom I can pull back and forth and scroll through, and I can pick exactly the amount that I want this to apply. And that's pretty cool. If I want that list to pop up again, I can hit the list icon or tap to the side to get out of it. Now I'm going to make a much bigger effect change. Let's just say we're going to do that. And I want the same effect to be repeated on a different picture. I can copy the effect. I go to a different picture and I can paste effect. And so that way I don't have to do all the fine tuning on every single repetition of that. Now because I was in effect, when I told it to copy the effect, that's all it did. It didn't copy the other stuff. So now if I go back, if I copy exposure, color, and effect, so all of the stuff I just did, I go back on a new one of those, I paste all of what I just did, now it's going to apply all of that at the same time. When it is time to share, when I am done with this and I want to share this photo, or I could select multiples, I can go to the top and I can pick from a variety of ways to share these. There's also the option of doing the auto enhancement, which just decides what to fix. You can rotate. Then you've got the flag, the heart. I don't exactly know what the difference is between those. And you've got the tag. And the tag is going to be really helpful because when we go back, we look at our albums, the tags are going to show up stacked together. So if I have a series of things that I did on Keynote, tap tag, and because I already typed in Keynote as a tag, I can just tap that once and it's there automatically. I can also add a new tag of parrot. So any other things that are parrots I can put together. If I look back now in albums, I have a parrot stack and I have a Keynote stack. The Keynote stack has 2 items in it. I can get rid of a tag just by unchecking those boxes. Now it disappeared because I was within that album that now no longer exists. Now if I go back into my camera roll, another thing you might want to do is maybe delete several pictures at once. I can pick one at a time and tell it to delete just by hitting the ellipses and then delete. It'll ask me if I'm sure. But that's really tedious if I have a whole bunch because I took all these screenshots, I want to get rid of them. Now I could just tap and hold, and after I tap and hold, it will select all those multiples, Now it'd be cool if you could do effects on all these, but you can't. I could heart all of these and put them together. I could tag all of these as keynote and put them together rather than doing one at a time, which seems like a really good idea. To unselect them, I just tap and hold on each one and they disappear. Or I can hit the ellipses and say multiple photos. And so now the top bar changed a little bit, so I have the marked, cancel, and range. So every one of those I hit is now going to be selected. So I can also say range by tapping that, and now everything between this, so this one that I select and this one, it now has filled in that whole range, so that's going to save a lot of time. When I'm done with that range, I can tell it done, and now all of those are selected. Tapping on the ellipsis again, and I can delete all of those at once or just hide them from what I can see within iPhoto, because maybe you don't want everything to show up in iPhoto, just some that you care about editing. And that's it for this video on iPhoto, covering some of the management and organization and also the editing features. The next video is going to show how to work with the projects.